I want to understand more completely the relationship between using your mind and using your heart, especially when it comes to making decisions. It seems to me, as I started out early in my career, I'd read a lot of materials, and it was the books concerned more analytical and a logical way of approaching solutions. And then now, as we move forward about 10 years, it seems like it's more about accessing intuition. It seems like the pendulum has swung to using your heart almost solely to make decisions. And it seems to me there's probably a balance. And growing up, I was very involved in sports. And I know that when I was really on, I would move, and it wasn't with thought, though. It was just almost like a reaction or an intuition. Duplicating that in real life, though, has been not as easy. So I'm trying to understand what role does the mind and what role does the heart play, and how can you duplicate what I felt in an athletic arena
Perfect.
in real life?
Yes. The first thing we would like to say to you is that the way it works in this universal environment, which is vibrationally based, is that when you focus or project a thought, that is the beginning point. It is the projection of thought that is the molding of the energy. But the emotional response to the thought is the indicator of the vibration. So you think a thought and then you have a feeling response.
Right.
But they are so much happening in the same moment that it is really splitting hairs talking about which came first, the thought or the emotion, because actually they're happening so much a part of one another. Now, if you imagine with us for a moment a wheel with a hub in the center, and this wheel can be as big as this room, or as big as this city, or as big as this universe. It can be as big as you want it to be. And out on the outer edge of the wheel are all of the thoughts and all of the experiences that anyone has ever lived or thought about living. In other words, everything is out there, the good, the bad, and everything in between. Now, if you are approaching life experience through thought, one might say, well, I'll get out here on the outer edge, and I'll sift through the thoughts, toss this one, keep this one, toss this one, keep this one. And we say it would be quite a terrific sifting, sorting job that you might do. Or, in the center of the wheel is the emotional response to the thought. So let's say you choose a thought which gives you a feeling response. And now that feeling response is your point of attraction. You only have vibrational access to the things out there on the outer edge of the wheel that are a vibrational match to the feeling response. So, rather than sifting and sorting through all of those thoughts, which is an endless process and you're going on lots of wild goose chases, it's a hard way to go about it, why not choose a thought that you know feels good, find your center, and let law of attraction do the sifting and sorting for you.
Right.
That is the way that we would approach it. We would reach for the feeling place and let the manager called law of attraction then do the sorting.
So then what role really does your mind play? I mean, obviously we were given a brain and a mind for some kind of function. Is it just a matter of solely a channel of focusing, or, so therefore you set your right vibration, or what is the role of the intellect and the mind then?
Well, your mind is the focusing mechanism. When we talk about choosing the thought that feels better, we're talking about using your intuition to guide you to a range of choices. In other words, we think it is a wonderful range of choices between, oh, this is interesting, to, oh, this is fantastic, to, oh, this is passionate, to, oh, this is loving, to, oh, this is satisfying. In other words, you don't have to go the whole gamut from agony to ecstasy.
Right.
You're still making choices. But your mind is literally the focusing mechanism. It is through the choosing of that which you focus upon. It is the molder of the energy. It is the literal creative mechanism. Just like your hands mold the clay, your mind molds the energy. And your emotions guide you. An easier way to hear this, and it has been a more recent approach, because when we talk about deliberate creation, it sounds like a lot of sifting and sorting, and it brings forth questions like the ones that you are presenting here. When you think in terms of the art of allowing, and you recognize that there is only a source of well-being. When you come into a room, you do not look for a dark switch. You don't think that there's a source of some darkness that will cover up the light. you understand that there is a resistor to the light, and in the absence of the light there is darkness. And so in the same way, there is not sickness, but there is absence of wellness, and there is not confusion, but there is pinching off clarity, and there is not poverty, but there is disallowing abundance. And so there is a stream of well-being which you are allowing or not. So when you are approaching life experience in terms of how much good can I allow, you are feeling your way to your good. Now this is the way we would make the perfect marriage between the two, because there is an absolute important place for both aspects that you are talking about. They go together perfectly. So you are evaluating contrast, and by contrast we simply mean variety. You're evaluating choices. You're exposed to experience. And out of that exposure, you cannot help but come to conclusions, and this is happening with mind. There are preferences that are being made within you on all levels. Cellular preferences, bodily preferences, chemical preferences within your body, and intellectual preferences. On so many levels we could not even begin to define them if we had 10 years of talking only about that. So as these preferences are being assimilated within you, they are radiating from you, and the universe who adores you is responding to your preferences. And when you are directing your thought and paying attention to the way you feel as you then guide your thoughts, this is the way that it all comes together. So contrast is helping you to decide desire. Then you use, or we would if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would use our willpower or our mental guiding to now choose thoughts that now match the desire that I have just decided that I want. But we don't know anyone who has the ability to choose the thought that harmonizes without feeling their way to it, because everything is vibrational. And you are much better vibrational interpreters through your emotions than any of you have ever begun to realize that you are. In this vibrational universe, everything that you perceive is because of your ability to interpret vibration. Your eyes interpret vibration. That's why you see what you see. Your ears interpret vibration. Even your fingertips are interpreting vibration. That's why you feel what you feel. And your solar plexus, or your energy center, interprets the vibration of thought to let you know the alignment or misalignment with the source energy. Now, coming back to what you were saying about the sports that you participated in, how you can feel so powerfully when you were in sync and when you were in tune. What was it about that you could then learn to apply to other things?
Yeah, because in that situation, it was almost like I wasn't thinking at all. I was just moving.
And yet, many decisions were made as you watched others play. You launched rockets of desire. As you contoured your body. What was your favorite sport?
Basketball.
And so, can you feel how much thought went into that even before you were ever on a court?
Sure, in practice, all the time, and just playing by myself. There's constant role playing going on in your mind even while you're practicing.
And think about the elements of an actual game where you are really on. Describe some of the things that you either were taught to do or that you came upon on your own. In other words, when you were playing the sport, do you think you were more single-minded than at other times in your life?
I was totally focused.
And were you focused upon missing the basket or hitting it?
Yeah.
Were you focused upon the game and the components of it, or were you focused upon other things?
Right.
You were focused upon that. And so in the vernacular that we're offering here today, you were asking with a more focused lens. In other words, it's like, all right, body and friends, it's showtime.
Right.
Here I am to do what I have trained myself to do. You weren't thinking about a lot of other things. You were thinking about that. So the energy was lined up in a more powerful way. And because of that, when you were in sync with the energy, it was a glorious, almost ethereal, almost otherworldly experience. And when you weren't in alignment with the energy, it was a very hard game.
Right. Very frustrating.
And the way that applies to life in general is that when you are more specific about what you want, the energy is moving faster, and when the energy moves fast and you're in alignment with it, you have ecstasy. But when the energy moves fast and you're not in alignment with it, you're having a sort of rough ride. It's exactly the same thing.
That's exactly it. It's funny because in basketball or any sport, it's very specific. And yet, if you want to kind of parlay the analogy to like a career, for instance, I'm not as specific in what I want to do or accomplish in my career. I just know a general feeling I like to have. And I think therein is some of the challenges. Like in sports, I was very specific as far as kind of the end goal and what I wanted to accomplish and how I wanted to feel about it.
But think about it. Think about what you just said about life in general, and see if you can't find some of the same feeling components in the game of basketball. Was your overall intent really complicated, or was it truly rather simple?
Very simple.
I want to do well.
Right.
I want my body to move well. I wanted.
Right.
It was simpler, and in that simplicity, there is often alignment of energy. You know, as we watch humans, and we watch all of them now, and have watched all of them always, and we notice that even the humans that are in the grandstands at the sporting events find themselves more in alignment with source energy during the sporting event than almost at any other time in their life, for the same reason that the people on the floor are more in alignment then than at almost any other time in life. Because they have narrowed the things that they're thinking about down to a simpler number of things, and they are less in a place of resisting the energy from flowing, in part because those who are watching don't have so much invested. Even if they are rooting for a team that is very important to them, still there is a huge alignment of energy that takes place. It's almost meditative in nature.
Right.
We teach meditation because it's easier to teach you to have no thought than it is to teach you to have pure positive thought. Right. Now think about what we're talking about here. So the game itself is meditative in nature because it causes the focus on less things that are troubling to the individual. And that's really what you're reaching for. You're wanting more segments where you are focused upon fewer things that are causing resistance. That's what this seminar has been about all day today, catching yourself in the act of doing that thing where you don't let it in. And that's what the game did for you. It gave you a reason to focus, which gave you a longer body of time when you weren't doing that thing that didn't let it in, right. You see. Segment intending is really the answer, recognizing that all of your power is right here in this moment, and stopping on a regular basis. A new segment is any time your intentions might vary, if only slightly, from the segment before. So when you discover that you are in a new segment, like when you get in your car to drive somewhere, or when you come to a gathering like this, even when you came to this chair, your segment changed from what it was when you were sitting. Mm-hmm. So as you recognize that you're in a new segment, stop and think about what you most desire in that segment. And by identifying your desire with your head, and then finding vibrational harmony, as you said, with your heart, in other words, reaching for thoughts that feel good while you think them, now you're in alignment, and this segment must deliver to you the optimum that it could deliver.
Good. I'm good. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.